What was that?
Perfect. You want to be that guy?
Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The band is back together.
We missed you, Tamp. Oh, Don Front. God damn, I missed you, bro.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to DC TV. Good morning. It is January 6th, 2023. It is Bucket Friday, Conspiracy Theory Friday, Tinfoil Hat Friday, whatever the hell we decided to call it this morning. It is Friday, no matter what. So looking at the markets today, S&P is up 1%. The Dow is up also 1%, and NASDAQ is popping off too. A lot of this movement is off of the jobs reports. The economy adds 223,000 jobs. The unemployment rate drops to 3.5%. Looking at Bitcoin, it looks as if there's very little response to that. Sometimes it responds to news like this. Sometimes Bitcoin doesn't, but it's sitting here at 16,775 for Bitcoin. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. I'm curious about this because we're starting to see some other things in crypto kind of fall off. Mm-hmm. I think that this might have to do with the Fed and its hawkish stance, and as we know, that stance has actually kind of hurt cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in general. So we'll see how the rest of the day plays out. It's early yet on this immediate reaction to those jobs numbers. But Jaime, I kind of wanted to have you show everybody the charts here. Let everybody know what exactly you're checking out.
Sure. So literally what we're looking at is just sideways for now. Everything's waiting for the second shoe to drop. Our buy areas are still below. It's not showing much strength. What's it called? The real shitty indicator done.
That's the one. Really stupid indicator. I can go really shitty though. That's fine.
Yeah. It's still not showing strength in terms of a decision of movement. So we're still hovering where we're at. I still want to show where we're at on the grand scheme of things. We are scraping the bottom of the growth S-curve. This does not mean that Bitcoin cannot dip below it like it did in 2014 bear market. We can see it here without breaking the entire structure. And Don, you've had, I always keep mentioning there's one where you're showing the absolute bottom possible based on the growth it's had in the past. We are where we need to be. It's just a decision of where will we end up. The floor, one of those strong floors, I always look at the monthly levels for floors or resistance ceilings. And ours currently stands from the previous monthly closes of the previous bull run is still sitting at 13,888. And if you notice, we're not too far from it. Here, share this tab instead. There we are. Sorry, guys. Here's the monthly closes. And if you notice, this is the spot where in the past, we've used it as resistance and then support afterwards. This would be the first time we test it as support. So the big question is, will it hold or will it break? The next level is down in the 10,754. There is a smaller one here. Sitting at 11,600, where we could also test it. So it could wick down below. The big question is, and that's what we're going to watch, is will it hold? So if you guys hear the news, usually you look at the chart, you kind of know what may be coming. We just don't know how. And then the news usually relate to what's going on in the chart. It sounds like black magic, but you'll notice usually that's how it works out.
We burn some tea leaves, get a sage out, crystal balls.
That's right.
There's no one talking about
burning. It's not tea leaves you're burning.
No, it's a good bowl though.
I think, by the way, we're going to double down on this bet and we're going to call it 4,000. I think we're gonna get to my zone first, and then I'm going to give Tamp an opportunity to go double or nothing.
4,000? There's no
Santa
way.
Dawn.
No way it goes to 4,000.
But
But
if
that the only reason I'm thinking 4,000, not really thinking 4,000, but every time a crypto nerd tells me there's no way, I think, man, we're gonna hammer it down even harder.
so here's that absolute bottom. If I'm looking at the chart
Mhm.
and I click on the previous bear market, it's sitting at 3,400, 3,400. And
Yeah.
I know that's got to be like a floor.
insane.
Yeah,
There's another level up here where I see there's quite a bit of support where we've tested it multiple times, sitting at 6,300. So, damn.
It's just so frustrating, Don, like
Mhm.
because price action with Bitcoin is the least interesting aspect of the entire technology.
Of course.
And some of the talk around these bankruptcies, regulation, all this stuff, it's absolute FUD. It's absolute bullshit. And it puts a black eye on Bitcoin and the technology that it is and what it's really about, because the last thing it's about is price action on a chart.
Mm-hmm.
But
really.
in the same breath, even though I know I'm right, you're also right, because at the end of the day, does it hit the number on your chart that you called or not? Right. And so I understand that mentality too. So it's incredibly frustrating for me, because I'm sitting here waiting for this technology to be able to use it more and do things more with it and move forward in DeFi past all this BS. But this BS is just getting either exacerbated or it's getting drug out intentionally for the price action, which is the least important part of the damn technology in the first place. So it's extremely frustrating to me.
But people are greedy. You would agree with that, right?
Well, yeah, I just said it.
And
People are self-interested.
This is an aspect of people to make money. In the end, they'll put money into it and they hope to grow money. Whether the currency changes to Bitcoin or stays fiat, they just want to have more of it. And so you talk about technology, like Tesla is like a prime example. We'll call it a technology. Their technology in cars. Like, look at the price action on it. Has nothing to do with their stock. The technology is going to keep growing. Their AI is doing awesome. If we're going to call it AI, just the full self-driving is hopefully getting better, but the price action is still flowing all around it and everywhere. And it's still in the end because people just use this to make money. Once it becomes an asset class, and you'll watch me, not to be cocky or be bragging, but you'll watch me get more and more accurate the more institutions and the more the big players get into crypto.
You know what? And that's
Bitcoin, at least.
That's a good point. Like, can we kind of touch on the regulation thing for just a second? Can we go, Brad? Is that okay? Because like yeah. Because I kind of like want to talk on the regulation thing, because that's a huge deal, and everybody said, oh, we need regulation, myself included. I've said it before, but then I'm watching how some of this stuff is playing out in the early days of regulation, and it is extremely frustrating because it's clearly backwards. It's clearly not for the interest of the technology or the people involved or anything like that. It's just the government getting into things. So I kind of wanted to touch on this and get your thoughts on it. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, because it's like a little bit of a rant, but like, it's frustrating that people believe that regulation is going to fix anything. And like, oh, trading volumes on Bitcoin won't get back until there's regulation and this big money comes in and blah, 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 blah. Like, what if trading volumes are low because the big boys aren't using our money right now to cycle their leverage? No regulation exists that would have prevented what has happened in DeFi in the last few months. And I say that now because we're seeing companies possibly go bankrupt that already report to the SEC. And there's a rumored $7.5 billion difference in their debt to what they've had. And there's possible commingling of funds to the likes of FTX. So what is the point of this company going to the SEC and being regulated by the SEC if the SEC is going to allow this? So I think it's really comforting. It must be awfully comforting for some people out there to honestly believe that there's funds out there saying that they won't invest in Bitcoin or the digital asset space until there's regulation, when the reality is they will do it the second they know their competition has done it. So their whole goal is to deploy and grow capital. You can't do that if you just sit on cash. So everyone, I think, is gun shy and not wanting to be the first one to jump into Bitcoin, waiting on regulation, quote unquote. But I think they'll rush in regardless of market price or condition once that first person has done it. And right now it looks like Fidelity, like just right now, Fidelity is doing all these things. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, BlackRock and oh, JP Morgan and all these other people get it too. When in reality, they're just waiting for that first mover. So they're like lemmings, right? Like they're complaining about regulatory concerns and they're just squeaky wheels hoping they can increase a percentage of their portfolio reclamations from Chapter 11 proceedings, funds that they wouldn't have invested anyways. And I just think once Fidelity or whoever is first, regardless of market conditions, they're going to jump in and regulation or not, you know what I mean? And so it's just, it's frustrating. And I mean, they're going to charge for every single thing that they can. And that's, again, if they're not going to be investing, then they're, Fidelity, for example, is going to offer every service they can charge for: custody, USD issuance, lending, marketing, pension, 401k, super funds, blah, 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 blah. So it's just frustrating that we're like, oh, regulation will save us from what's happened in DeFi this year, when I really think the opposite. But we also need it. But why? Because Celsius was reporting to the SEC and Grayscale. Look at this shit.
And FTX.
It's not necessarily reporting to the SEC. That helps you out. It kind of keeps you it's kind of like talking about the OTC markets versus regular markets. Like, we can see your accounting a little bit. We can see a little bit more. There's definitely still loopholes and issues there. I think with the regulation, they're hoping insurance and they don't just get completely smoked. Like, isn't his name Mr. Wonderful putting all his money in FTX just because it is too new. But it's kind of like when Tesla bought Bitcoin. The idea was once that big name bought it, then others will kind of follow suit. So I think you're right in both. I think there's some are waiting for the icebreaker. But then I do think once regulation comes, they'll think now it's finally safe. It's an asset class we can call, or we can actually look into. I was trying to think of an analogy.
I really think it all just revolves around insurance, does it not? I mean, because regulation,
don't want to throw their money away. Yeah, because that's.
And it provides regulation is going to provide clarity. And no matter how bad or how good it is, at least it provides clarity. So now the big boys and all the ones that want to get in are like, okay, here's the ground rules. How do we find the loopholes and how do we run?
I hear you, but some of the big boys are already here. Like Don said, like the BlackRocks and the Teslas and the Michael Saylors and MicroStrategies of the world. Like, the big boys are here. But what is regulation gonna do? I guess that's kind of what I'm asking. It's such a farce to me.
Regulation is going to be the yellow brick road for the big guys. That's it. Not retail. Regulation is just going to be how they can use it and make money. It'll become a big, what do we call it? A big boy game.
Yeah.
Once regulation's here.
Yeah. It's going to favor them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, you can see that they're already, like, the government's already trying to set up to favor somebody, whether it's the clear path that they were trying to do with FTX or whoever they get in bed with next. They're going to regulate according to how they can make the most money, not anything aside of that. And it's just like, if anybody thinks that regulation would have kept DeFi, the collapse that we've seen in DeFi from happening, I think you're highly, highly misguided.
Yeah. I bet that was put there just to bring on.
Yes.
It's going to create that panic and they're going to come in like, I'll be your knight in shining armor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Never
this dungeon right here. And then everyone's going to
call me Big Daddy.
Exactly. And that's what I said. They're here to help. Come on, man.
It's not a coincidence that SBF was involved with even the original collapse back in May. Like, there's allegations where he made certain trades or certain switches that triggered that Luna collapse and a few other, which was a chain of events that ultimately he collapsed as organization FTX. So, and as an organization, they were having these direct meetings with the SEC and a lot of these other regulators where there's all this tons of video. So it's almost like everyone's feeling it, but they can't fully prove it that this was a setup.
Oh, it absolutely was an attack.
Yeah.
It was an outright attack.
a lot of this has trickled over into what we're going to be talking about in just a minute with the Celsius and well, not Celsius in particular, but Gemini and Genesis is this debacle and how this might impact the price action of Bitcoin and what can we make of this? What's to be expected? If you guys haven't been privy to a lot of this information, we're going to be talking about all of that in just a moment. We're going to get to our WTF news of the day. This is going to be an interesting one too. I was definitely looking at this one like, what the fuck? But before we get into any of that, make sure you hit the link down in the description. Our Discord is absolutely free to join. We'd love to have you guys hang out there and continue this regulation conversation with us over there. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. If you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and that notification bell as we go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and we'll pepper in some videos in between there as well. So make sure you hit that notification bell. Hit that like button too if you're enjoying the stream. All right, today's WTF news of the day is this little girl right here. Do you guys see what's going on?
It's a claw machine.
It's a claw machine.
Okay.
Oh, she's in it.
Oh,
We have to go all the way. This is news that happened over the holiday break. So for those of you guys who might have seen this already, it's new to many of us. So
Pizza Planet.
Queensland, Australia. A little girl named Poppy Pike apparently found herself in a bit of a predicament. I just want you to just wanted to show this real quick. Look, she's obviously very upset.
Distraught.
And now there's
and there's 30 seconds of ads.
Hey, Verizon, kick rocks, bud.
yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, anyways, we'll just share this one.
I hope mom used the claw to get her out.
But you
The
can see-
claw.
Duck down, girl. Why can't she just go out the same way she
He
came in? I
chooses
don't get it.
who will
It's like
go,
a fish in a
who will
trap.
stay.
So this is that's the hilarious part, right? Because like, how many times have you, I don't know, heard or seen some kid get their head stuck between the two bars and a fence, or stair banister or something like that? I don't know. I had a big family. All my siblings got into crazy shit like that. Maybe I'm the only one, but then like they can never figure out how to get themselves out of it, which is the hilarious part. But fortunately,
So bad.
fortunately, they actually were able to get her out, but not via the claw. They didn't have to use the claw to actually extract her from the claw machine, thankfully, and she is in one piece. But that is your WTF news of the day.
Can we please highlight Lord Fenrir's comment again? That was freaking gold.
It's one of the games on Epstein Island.
Which one are you going for?
Pure gold.
Yeah.
Well
Jesus
done,
Christ.
Lord.
There's
Welcome
so many
back.
other jokes I could go with that, but I don't want
It's
to
a
get
joke because that's
answered.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's true, guys. If
Yeah.
stereotypes piss you off,
It was
don't
all
laugh.
men claws doing that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's like seen at a Pizza Planet on Toy Story. The claw, he chooses who will go and who will stay.
Oh,
Jesus. Yes.
he has been chosen.
Anyways, that's your WTF news of the day, guys.
Poor
There are a
girls.
couple other ones. I actually wanted to bring this one up. Didn't Don, you talked about flying cars the other day?
I did too.
I did
We had
too.
a meeting with one of the guys deploying, working with. the
They're
FAA.
pretty fly. They're pretty fly.
Yeah. So
It's coming.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. You guys go ahead and talk about how awesome they are, and then I'm going to tell you why that's a terrible idea.
So Silicon Valley is developing some of the most out of this world technology, something that will let you both drive and fly, and while helping fight climate change. There's this flying car called the Flying Bird. In Japanese, it's a Los Altos company with big goals in mind. If you guys haven't checked this out, and there was like this running joke that apparently Tesla was going to get involved with it. That was actually a joke, not it was fake news. But
It's electric though, with a small gasoline. engine.
yeah,
It's
but
electric.
it just feels like it's total bullshit. And I'm kind of like in Don's camp. What are your thoughts, Don, on that?
As far as flying cars go, or
Rich.
that particular one in general, or we all have that one friend, right? So it's 25 miles to eat. It's a 30-mile trip coming up. They're like, I can make it. And that's the last thing I want to be doing is sitting in my living room thinking I'm watching a show and a propeller comes through my roof because someone thought they could make it and it died. And if you've ever taken off a drone, just know that that thing weighs grams. Now, listen to how loud that thing is. And it's this big. Now imagine one that's 2 tons in your driveway. It's going to be like you live in a helipad. And that's it because your neighbors are taking off. Someone's got to go to the gas station real quick. Like, that's going to be the loudest thing on Earth. It's going to be crazy.
The regulation is going to be the biggest piece of it. It's just like, getting specific flying zones to be acceptable. In my estimation, you won't see it widely adopted until AIs are well proven as pilots of
going to be a manpower.
I don't think it's ever feasible. Way too loud. What are you going to soundproof your whole?
No, you're assuming a lot of things. You're assuming the propeller is going to be the final design state. We have jet engines now, for example. Like
those are even quieter.
Back when the Wright brothers were making gliders, you know what I mean? Like understanding jet engines, they wouldn't have imagined that. And so at some point, I think we're going to find another propulsion technology, something like gravity wells or something like that. With our
tech, we'll be all right. Yeah,
fission and fusion getting better and better. There's going to be other things that are going to slip.
What's funny, I watched a show a long time ago, and this guy actually almost had me sold. It was about will cars be flying in the future, and he even brought up the reference. He goes, "Just imagine when that one person has a fender bender. Now it's an asteroid coming out of the sky. It's not going to be good. Like it's going to go from a fender bender to I just went through three levels in a building." But he said his idea of the future was it was hot air balloons. Not the big giant ones, but he was thinking you would have a balloon type with a canopy, almost like a blimp, and everyone would be traveling that way. It would be quieter, a little bit. Yeah, I guess you would get a leak, but it wouldn't just detonate and you'd fall out of the sky. But
Led Zeppelin
slowly let you down.
Aliens.
Tony Stark will figure it out. Yeah, we would need Tony Stark. Aliens fly around silently. We'll get there. We would need that. Maybe we can get Bob Lazar on the show. We can talk about what was it, particle 12 or 52 or whatever. We would need something like that. Or I don't think the flying cars we're seeing now with the giant drones, I think they're awesome, and I would definitely have one in my backyard. And I've come this close to building one a million times, but I just don't see everyone doing
Amazon has trialed those drones for delivery.
I'm with this though. Says Corgi says we don't need flying cars or anything because people are too distracted and dumb to drive normal cars, not to mention how bad people are with normal vehicle maintenance. There's just a lot, especially if somebody, and Don's worked on cars in his past life. I have as well. I can't tell you how many cars have come in with no brake pads and just a chewed up rotor because some sort of noise, but they couldn't figure out what it was and let it go for about 6 months.
The major assumption you're making though is that they're piloted by humans. Like
correct.
AI driving is going to be the technology. I guarantee.
You have to take care of it and everything else too. So like
AI sensors can take care of that better than you can.
The answer to this though is just not in my lifetime.
Yeah, a B-50, not B-52, a B-2, the stealth bomber, the giant wing. I see them flying around because I live next to the base. For every 1 hour they're in the sky, it's 51 or 54 hours of maintenance on the ground.
Yeah.
Like now take that, and you got a plane in your driveway. Like you've never even changed your oil. Like let alone like the maintenance you're gonna need on that, the pre-flight checklist. Like have your AI do that. Like is it gonna look at the props for you and to make sure those are okay? Because anything balanced off even a little bit, timing's not right.
Yes.
People will wobble their tires down the highway because they never got those things balanced right, or a weight fell off. Now here they are going to try to fly with that thing. They're coming out of the sky.
The path they're saying is they're piloted first, and then as the technology evolves, they'll be pilotless.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about it, the aircraft are already capable of taking off, landing, and doing everything from gate to gate in automated. It's just people are too scared of putting their lives on full automation. But FAA, correct. But the FAA is there to ensure that type of disaster doesn't happen. So, and I know for a fact, and not just this organization, but also Mitsubishi and a few others are working in that direction with the FAA to make this a reality. So it almost seems like it's going to be inevitable. but it's going to be a toy for the rich first. Of like, what is it, $700,000 for one of these?
You can make them a lot cheaper than that.
I don't know.
Correct.
But even then, I'm going to say Brandon's right. We're going to need a different propulsion tech because no one's going to have this in their neighborhood, just having a helicopter take off. I mean, you've heard it on you guys weren't there on the stream. I had a helicopter land in my backyard a couple of times. You could hear it on the stream. Now imagine just all your neighbors have one. They're not one big one, 4 of them. Now we're just rocking it. Sorry, hang on, guys, gotta be quiet. My neighbor's going to the gas station.
Yes. Jesus Christ, the show's getting off the rails. Anybody who's shown up for the first time are like, "Are we talking about crypto or what?"
Yeah, your Bitcoin's gonna buy a flying car and fall out of the sky because it ran out of miles.
This is what I
decentralized travel.
What I love about this show. This show sucks, guys. So for that, just hit the thumbs up. We just would appreciate it.
No,
it actually is. It actually is legit. We haven't seen the chat this active in quite a minute. We're talking about Epstein and claw machines and flying cars. So
you got aliens in there too. Oh,
yes, aliens.
Thank you, Lord Fenrir. Aliens. That's the answer. Aliens.
All right, let's rein in. What's the next story, Brad?
Moving on, guys. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, we would certainly appreciate it. But we have some news coming up here. It's kind of weird. Letitia James, if you guys aren't familiar with her, is the New York Attorney General and is suing the former CEO of cryptocurrency platform Celsius Network for defrauding investors out of billions of dollars. Alex Mashinsky lied to people about the risks of investing in Celsius, hid in its deteriorating financial condition, and failed to register in New York. Now, before anybody says anything, I do want to say that I'm bringing this up because we are going to be talking about Gemini and Genesis, and I feel as though what's going on with that situation is actually far more serious than what happened with Celsius. So if the AG is going after Celsius, I can only imagine what's going to be happening with Gemini and Genesis, the Winklevi twins and all of that. So make sure you're staying tuned because we are going to be getting into that later in the show. But I wanted to address this with you guys and your thoughts on this. Does it seem warranted by Letitia James or not?
I mean, it's a distraction. Go after Celsius. Go, bring up Grayscale and everything else to distract from the point that SBF is not going to be in jail for at least another 10 months.
He's gallivanting around in October.
Yeah. Celsius and Grayscale are easier to go after because they don't have any connections the way that FTX does. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But here we are. I mentioned this to you guys yesterday in our chat, but I mean, this is a precedent that is now set because a judge came out and ruled in favor of Celsius, basically saying that despite the fact that when users deposited money into the Celsius platform, they had terms and conditions that stated that Celsius could not use their assets other than what they were being deposited for. Okay, if I deposit $100 into Celsius and I say, yes, you have this, and there's terms and conditions saying Celsius cannot use these monies for anything other than the reasons that I deposited it. Yet a judge came out and just said, actually, you gave that money to Celsius. The money and the yield that it produces is now Celsius's. It's now the third party's. It is no longer yours. So that's the regulatory protection that you're coming with. What's the point? You gave them their money, so it should be theirs, is the precedent that was now set, despite terms and conditions, despite people wanting to take Celsius to court for my protection as a consumer. What are we doing?
Yes. And you go to jail if you commingle, and yet here's a judge allowing the commingling now, like literally handing it over. So in the New York AG, they're the ones who started also the lawsuit with Ripple USDT also, where they were saying 1-to-1, and then thanks to their lawsuits and everything, now they're clear of in commercial paper and lint in my pocket. That's how we're backed up. So they are following in to a certain degree. I'm with the New York AG because it's adding pressure that no, you shouldn't just be handing client assets over to the company that just did all the wrong things, wrong moves, and now the client's going to be paying for this. Having entrusted them. So by doing this lawsuit, I know it's a distraction, Tam, but I think it's necessary one to keep a level there, because now they had the New York State general attorney pressuring to be like, all right, good. There should be some accountability here to the clients, not just hand everything over to the others. So,
well, and this is the first of many states that could potentially go after Celsius as well. Actually, 12 states and the District of Columbia had objected to Celsius's bid to claim the digital assets when they filed for bankruptcy, and they argued, among other things, that it was unclear if customers understood the terms of service, that Celsius was under investigation in several states for violating regulations, which could arguably prevent the company from relying on the terms of use, and that's according to Reuters.
Yep. And so literally what's happening, guys, is the fact that by this action of handing it all over to Celsius to do as they need to do, it's literally putting the people who funded this last.
Yeah.
To be able to grab their assets last.
Yep.
Everybody else in the business that were doing the business and, we're supposed to have a business model, they get first dibs. And then there's no clarity either on in the last package or the last group, which are the ones who put their money in. How do you keep it fair where certain people get 100% back and then the others get 20 cents on the dollar? There is no clarity there either. So it's not a good thing, what just transpired. And this is the whole reason why crypto is Bitcoin is the answer. You have full custody of your own value, and you can work as long as no one can take it from you. And that's the whole thing, not your keys, not your crypto. This is a perfect example of what that phrase means. You just gave them your value. You trusted they would do you right. And if there's any trouble, at least warn you, hey guys, we're having trouble. Let's do something. No, instead of just full outright bankruptcy, and now you're put last. So you may not even get your assets back after all the other sharks get feeding on your money.
Right. That was one thing I wanted to touch on, because what Tamp was saying is like the price action is the least interesting part of this. What she means by that is like the technology is properly unprecedented, right? Like we've been looking in like technology, all these trends of moving towards, like the decentralized power and trustless systems, or zero trust architecture. You'll hear that term too thrown around. And Bitcoin from day one already was that. It already was a zero trust system. It's a peer-to-peer cashless system, and it works off of proof of work. So as long as you have your keys, like nobody is a middleman. There's no middleman. And what's hilarious to me is that the ask for regulation is saying, okay, so I know we have a trustless system, but let's put some other entities in the middle that you can trust more than a trustless system. It's like, well, there's no need to trust. You're like, if you were designing a system, that would be a bad design. The only reason you would do that is so that you have more control over other people, so they're subject to you. And that's the very pivotal and controversial thing about Bitcoin is it takes every person and gives them the capacity to actually be subject to no man, right? That's controversial though, because governments want you to be their subjects. They don't want to functionally be elected officials serving the public. They want the public to be citizens and subjects to their kingdom is kind of how you hear some of these people talk, right? And so that's the context we're looking at with this regulation, is it's people who just don't get it, or people who do get it and hate it, right?
Yes.
So what does the price action have to do with the technology? Just to bring back
It's
my
market
Tesla
sentiment.
reference. Yeah, because your Tesla car still drives. Tesla stock's plummeting right now. Big deal. So like, what does that? Tam, I do want to hear your opinion on that.
It has to do more with the scarcity. Bitcoin is truly a scarce asset, and supply and demand have every single thing to do with the price action. Truly, not just market supply and demand, or we'll measure what we want for our inputs and our outputs, like our U.S. government does with our debts and everything else. Like it's truly 100% a supply and demand asset. So as the technology evolves, becomes easier to use, and thus the usage of that sovereign monetary device expands, then the price action of it is going to go up. That little bit of Bitcoin that you have is going to be able to buy you more in the future. But it can never be tainted by an individual who wants to manipulate it, again, through numbers or through news or through anything else. One Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin, and 21 million Bitcoin will all that will ever be. So the technology is more, not so much in the Bitcoin is a technology in and of itself, but that technology is done. It's complete. Now the next level of technology needs to come in adoption and ease of use, so that it is a truly supply and demand price action. It'll be the only thing that's not subject to a middleman getting in the way and manipulating something in some shape, form, or fashion. Does that make sense? So it's not technology like this is the future in terms of, wait till you see where Bitcoin is in 10 years. Bitcoin in 10 years will be the exact same thing it is today. The technology comes in the ease of use of that unchanged and completely sovereign Bitcoin.
Yeah. Things like side chains, like the Lightning Network, that improve the ability for you to very quickly have a constant feed of how much you're getting paid. People could get paid by their employer by the second, and it'd be a live payment they'd be making, and it would be settled and resolved on the Bitcoin blockchain once in whatever time interval is determined. That's what Lightning Network allows for, right? It allows for Bitcoin to be the long-term location where the data is stored, but there's another place it can exist with a proper smart contract in the meantime.
And all that can happen regardless of price.
Yes, they continue building regardless of price, just like you said.
We're in the
Tesla.
process of building regardless of price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the people, like heavyweights building, understand that. They don't give a hoot about the price at all. They don't even look at it.
The only people, if you care about price, you should care about price action. That's about the only thing that does matter. Not in an argumentative way, but like,
no, agreed.
There is the technology, the fundamentals behind it, and that train's it's rolling. It's on its rails. It's going, regardless of price. So the price action, still just the noise. The people that are playing it are the people who hope to make a gain from it. Maybe they front run risk because there is a supply and demand aspect. They hope it goes up. But they need all the noise and all that just to create that movement.
Yeah. And well, you well know all charts are literally the human emotion of greed and hope and everything all put on a chart, literally.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. And that's what people trade on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The builders are the ones who understand where it's going and understand that ultimately this will continue growing. It's just how we get there. We don't know yet.
Yeah, it's a matter of, are you a visionary, an early adopter, a late majority, or laggards, right? People who only adopt the system because everyone's using it. I guess I better get a cell phone. That whole idea.
Gundy said it best: building in a bear market, and that's exactly what. If you believe in this technology, is what you should be doing, and really any technology, right? I mean, we've talked about this just in the secular or the traditional market. That's always where the money actually gets made. So really good stuff here, guys. If you want to continue this conversation, make sure you check us out in the Discord below. It's absolutely free to hang out in our community. We'd love to help have that conversation with you guys in there and help us build our community there. Also, if you want to help support the channel, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up if you're enjoying the stream so far. Now let's get into this Genesis debacle. So will the Genesis or Gemini potential bankruptcy crash the market? And I think that this is going to be interesting. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, but here's what's happening. So if you guys haven't checked out what the Tyler Winklevoss has put out over the last couple of days, here is what he has been talking about. I'm actually going to switch over here. So this is an open letter to Barry Silbert. The
January 2nd, by the way.
This is January 2nd, talking about the $900 million that they have tied up and that they're looking to seek this money. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory here. This is kind of the conversation that publicly has been happening on Twitter. Barry Silbert then said that they did not borrow $1.675 billion from Genesis, and that they never missed an interest payment to Genesis and is current on all outstanding loans. And then Cameron Winklevoss chimes in and then basically accuses him of straight up lying about it. And then how does DCG owe Genesis $1.675 billion if they didn't borrow the money? And says, and straight up asks them, will you not commit to solving this by January 8th in a manner that treats the $1.1 billion promissory note as $1.1 billion? It is January 6th. So if this doesn't get honored, what happens to Genesis? What happens to Gemini? And what happens to Bitcoin after that? And remember, there are ties to grayscale, so this affects traditional markets as well. I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on this, and where do we see things going from here?
So, a little background. I just want to give a little background,
please,
for people
because
who aren't familiar with with who DCG is. The Winklevi, and that's plural for Winklevoss for the ones that don't know. They're twins, and little even further background. These twins were involved with Facebook way at the beginning, and there was even a movie.
They sued Mark Zuckerberg and made a bunch of money there. They were also
these were the D-bags in that movie.
Yeah, they also were in the Olympics as rowers.
That's
anybody.
right.
They came in 6th place during Brazil, whatever.
They take on curling next.
So then they actually were one of the early adopters of Bitcoin. Like they actually invested some of the money from the settlement with Facebook into a Bitcoin way at the beginning. Barry Silbert is the CEO of quite a few organizations, but he's the CEO of DCG. And this organization has launched quite a few products below. So subsidiaries of this, of his organization. And he was a huge early adopter of Bitcoin and then everything else that was coming about, and was involved in quite a few of the projects, including USDT, like a lot, as a funder trying to build the industry. The challenge that has occurred, one of the subsidiaries of DCG is Genesis. And Genesis, it seems that the Winklevi were, if you wanted to stake or earn with the Gemini platform, which belongs to Winklevi, they were actually now giving it to Genesis to perform the staking and everything else, and then to pay back the client. So they were actually performing the work. The Winklevi were securing the investors or the retail investors to stake or earn. It's like a CD in a bank, for the ones that aren't comfortable with it. So it got to the point where this FTX implosion occurred, which dropped the market and it created a lot of difficult situations. And then all of a sudden, Genesis, which is owned by Barry Silbert, stopped. They're like, okay, everything's frozen. We're not paying. And then Gemini are like telling their clients, guys, there's a problem here. We're holding off on, we're not paying interest at this moment. We're trying to secure everything. So they're trying to get it resolved. And that triggered all this communication that's going on right now, the back and forth between them. And Barry himself has actually even gone silent on them, to the point to where the Winklevi brought this to the public.
Yeah.
They posted it publicly. And this is what triggered everyone else. So everyone, in the meantime, we're looking at Binance as the next shoe. I believe it may be DCG, the next shoe to drop, to create that drop we're expecting with Bitcoin and the overall market. Why? Because everyone already started taking out all their or a ton of people, billions of dollars have come out of Binance, and they're still standing. Why? Because they didn't have loans against customer assets or, leveraged it or anything of that sort. In the case of DCG, the argument that the Winklevi are having is they're saying, hey, man, you actually, we expect you used it to prop up one of DCG's products, which is GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and a few other of the trusts to prop them up. So almost using the client assets. This hasn't been proven. This is the argument that's occurring. They're saying, okay, we suspect you're commingling client funds to save your own ownership of assets and everything else. And one of the assets is Grayscale Bitcoin. Why is this a high risk for the market overall and will affect the price action temp? Is because if Barry has to liquidate, all that Bitcoin floods into the market for liquidation. So that creates a downward pressure.
I'll buy it.
Correct. That's the point.
How many does he have?
Like hundreds of thousands, like
600,000 or something like that.
Can I borrow a couple dollars?
Well, hey, if it hits
You
your
can borrow a French fry.
well, you could buy full Bitcoins at that point. You know?
Can I just say all of this just sounds like it is just deteriorating, and it's everybody just pointing the finger at everybody. I really trust the next wave of people that are coming, but it sounds like every one of these was just built on crap. Like no fundamentals, no morals, no. Maybe that's why the SEC does these step in, because this first wave does suck.
This is our argument with TAM, or I'm with TAMP on this one, where if the laws exist right now with the SEC and all these regulators involved, and this isn't occurring, I agree with that. I keep forgetting her name, but it's wise words. This is not a crypto problem.
Right.
This is a fraud, scam,
over leveraging.
Yeah, this is a money problem, not a crypto problem. Like the principles behind every one of these businesses was gas station manager policies. Like there was no one in finance
correct
in this or a 100% fraud. You either knew nothing and it's unbelievable you even made it that far, or you did and it's fraud. Like, so are you completely stupid, or did you 100% know what you were doing?
Exactly. And let's not forget too, Don, you're right in thinking that the whole thing is BS, but unfortunately this is a couple bad apples that spoils the bunch thing, because there were very legitimate products with very legitimate, albeit flawed, founders who were doing the right thing for all of the right reasons, with the idea of the foundation of Bitcoin in mind on layer twos. And those people who were legit and fighting the good fight got literally attacked by these bad actors and brought down. That caused a cascade of other projects, some good and some bad as well. So it's really frustrating because it's not all built on BS, but these bad actors were able to infiltrate in a way that shot through the DeFi space like a plague.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
you didn't even need a Trojan horse on some of these. Some of these just sound like they were just built on crap. Like they was just
they were. And the shakeout is good and the shakeout is real, but the collateral damage is as well. There's a lot of people that did everything right and still got hurt. And that's what's frustrating, is the level of infiltration. If anything has come out of this past DeFi year, it is that we need far better and even more permissionless systems that do not allow for attack vectors like we've seen this year.
Absolutely.
Like we've definitely seen that. But, with the whole Grayscale bankruptcy, I mean, if Grayscale does go bankrupt, there's very little good that comes out of that. I mean, in all honesty, very little. But we've spoke about this on the channel before, and I will repeat it. But best case scenario, in my opinion, from this is that regulation does come in, and maybe this is why they're trying to pass very, very quickly some clearly backward, twisted, and stupid regulation. But I think regulation comes in, they pass an ETF, everybody gets to buy very cheap Bitcoin, and it fixes everything. That's what I think could happen as best case scenario should Grayscale go down.
Yeah.
If it does not happen, if Grayscale goes down and an ETF is not passed, then the market will absolutely tank. There is very, very little good that will come out of that. Then regulators will come in anyways as white knights to help save us all, quotation marks, and that is a big, big problem there as well. But we've talked about it on this channel before. Before Grayscale goes bankrupt, I think we will see the unwindings of a lot lesser coins that are not Bitcoin or Ethereum. And at that point, we know things are getting real and that Grayscale is in real trouble. And this isn't just whistleblowers. This isn't just hearsay. This is real. If you start seeing them unwind the likes of Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Zen, Filecoin, all these other things that they have, we talked about this. That is a very bad sentiment to put into the market. It's bad.
I feel like the last time you said that was when you were talking about Sam Bankman-Fried using investor funds, and that actually happened.
Right.
So it has me a little worried, Tamp.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's very true.
calling for a lot of, I know.
But I mean,
it has me worried for a lot of people. I mean, and you've talked about it on this channel too, that you actually have Grayscale.
Correct. Yes, as part of my
your retirement. Right.
Yeah.
So like, this is not just affecting, a small amount of people or people's livelihoods. GCB is
GBTC.
I'm sorry.
Or the
DCG.
Yes.
There's so many acronyms. DCG is also, scrambling still. Like they're still trying to figure it out. According to Market Insider, they closed down their wealth management unit. That managed around $3.5 billion. Then they're also cutting 30% of their working staff to try to figure all of this out. So they're scrambling right now. So I think it only further supports what exactly we're talking about here.
Right.
Yeah, it does. They're clearly looking for the change. Yeah, they're looking for the change in the couch right now. But I think one thing though that needs to be said is, again, I don't run a multi-million-dollar business, and I'm not the smartest person in the room. But if I was Grayscale or DCG, I would sell those assets that I talked about unwinding. I would sell those into Bitcoin, is what I would do. Pump the price of Bitcoin. That way they can help push the price up before the reckoning comes and any bankruptcy court stuff comes. And I think in that snapshot, they would be better off doing that than just outright selling things for cash and fiat.
And they own enough to even push up Bitcoin?
Yes, I do.
Yes, they do have because you'll see there are trading pairs directly with Bitcoin. So there wouldn't be a USDT. You can go straight to Bitcoin, as that's the grandfather of it all. So it's like going gold instead of bronze or anything else.
But so what she said was to sell it into Bitcoin, which would drive the price up, right? The risk you run with that is in this market is who's going to use that as their opportunity to let go and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and sell on this green candle while it's up. And then you drove the price up, selling some of your other assets essentially for nothing because they'll sell into strength what you hope to do. And then it does sell off. And you're even in a worse situation.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Like I said, there's very little good that could come out of this except an ETF. I think that would be the saving grace. And we've talked about that in the past as well.
But who would want to launch an ETF right now?
Well, we just talked about it. I mean, if the price tanks, there's a ton of people that are willing to buy it up quick.
And
buy it up very, very quick. And now if it's an ETF, it's regulated. And now all my big time, big boy buddies get into Bitcoin a lot cheaper now.
Correct. And there's quite a few that are of the big boys currently buying in Canadian or Australian or some of the European markets, their ETFs, because there is an interest in it. The problem is the US has not authorized one. And that's that's one of the conundrums. And Grayscale has been pushing SEC for years to allow them to convert an ETF. And yet they keep saying no, but allow other organizations like FTX to do what they want or what they're looking for. And then we have this implosion. So yeah, it's not a good thing. And to me, it's a whole setup.
Yeah. But I just hope that the fast moving regulation, albeit backwards as hell, is because they're trying to regulate for an ETF.
Correct.
I don't know. It's just hard to call.
We talked about FTX when all that went down back in early November, and the price action on Bitcoin and how it affected it. And I can't remember if it was Jaime or maybe Tamp. One of you guys had mentioned that there's going to be other big dominoes to fall after this, after the FTX debacle. Yeah, and this could very well be it. The next capitulatory moment where Bitcoin could be this whole issue. Yeah,
man, I don't know. I don't think they're going to outright file bankruptcy. I can't. Like I said, they'll start unwinding stuff, which is a bad sign. But to outright file bankruptcy, nothing will be sheltered from that. They're so big. They're so big.
But I believe it's just looking at the chart. I believe we're very close to an event. Even before we have on the weekly level, we have a death cross about to occur on around January 30th, depending on where the price is. So there's going to be something. And here's another news that occurred that kind of shows they're pushing this off. What typically happens when they release Bitcoin from Mt. Gox, Tamp and Brandon? Usually the market, if they release it, market usually drops because there's an influx of Bitcoin into the market. Well, they just pushed the Mt. Gox that was supposed to be released out to September. So it's almost like, okay, let's prevent more bloodshed. But if this transpires, this second shoe transpires, it'll be for naught. We should see that drop come in.
This was something that I thought was interesting from this is just a random Twitter account, but it happens to be a CFA. And so to that end, Tampa, I wanted to get your thoughts as far as the bankruptcy is concerned. He makes the argument that there's three mistakes that happen: buying Grayscale on GBTC on leverage and borrowing from subsidiaries, right? Yeah. So obviously we know that that's a mistake. The next one is not letting them go Chapter 11 after 3AC, and the other one is not accepting creditor committee terms. So, you have mentioned that we can't let them. It'd be almost impossible to let them go to Chapter 11, claim bankruptcy. So, do you disagree with this? Do you think that this was a mistake, not letting them go bankrupt, or what?
No, I don't. I mean, they're so huge. I mean, I think if we would have been focused on this, then who knows what happened with FTX? I mean, FTX was enough. I mean, we talk about price action all the time, and without this news, it's really frustrating because Bitcoin, as far as the chart is concerned, is poised to only go up right now. I mean, it's ready. It's bottomed. It's ready to go up until we have some news, and Don reads his tea leaves in that form. But that's what's frustrating is this news. Yeah, this news. How much of it is real? I don't know. I mean, like I said, we haven't seen any unwinding of assets. There's whistleblowers. What are they whistleblowing?
Right.
Barry's gone silent. Well, has he? Because the Winklevoss gave him this deadline of Friday, and technically Barry already did reply. There's some back and forth, just some procedural stuff. They're just allowing the inevitable.
He replied denying it though. That he.
Yeah, but he replied nonetheless.
I guess.
Yeah. So they're opening they need a decision, and there is no decision. Yeah. It's just stalling.
Right.
But I think the Winklevoss twins are just sick of looking like the bad guys, and I think in a way they're deferring. I don't know. I really don't. But this is just some frustrating dominoes right here.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see this stacking time wise with the FTX conclusions? Because wasn't that supposed to be October when FTX is supposed to
go to trial?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought SBF. We made a comment earlier this week that you're like, yeah, soon, and I'm like, that's a year, dude. That's October. So
yeah. To me,
it feels like they're trying to stack the events in order to get some ridiculous capitulation, scoop maximum amount of cryptocurrency, and increase the amount of government regulation. That way, they can kind of control the empire if they're
correct.
Hands on the steering wheel with the middleman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think the Winklevoss, they're sick of getting publicly screwed over, and so they want to be the ones to do the screwing now.
Yeah,
it's my time to do the screwing.
Right, exactly. And I don't know. Barry's not falling for it, but in the same breath, I think when Barry was like, I don't owe you anything, when he told them that, like, we're not indebted to you guys at all. There's some behind the scenes stuff that they both know. The Winklevoss are just trying to deflect all the attention on them. And Barry's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I don't know you anything. We know this. We both know this. You're obviously just deflecting.
Yeah.
And until we see them start unwinding things, I don't know. I mean, they're supposedly cutting staff right now. They're supposedly shutting down certain operations right now. But
we will.
I don't know.
I think there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, and we'll of course be following the story closely so that we can answer them to the best of our ability. So make sure you're staying tuned and hitting that subscribe button, that notification bells. We'll be back on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I would imagine that over the weekend we could see some things continue to develop. So make sure you guys are staying tuned, and also join us and continue the discussion here in Discord. It's absolutely free to join. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you guys over there. And that's going to do it for today's show. We do have birthdays, of course, and Mr. Bean is Rowan Atkinson is 67 years old. Alex Turner is 36. Oh yeah, Norman Reedus from Walking Dead is 53.
Which one's that?
Does not look.
He's the one that the one with
Darren?
the crossbow.
What's his name? Darren. Yeah, the dude with
Okay.
Yeah.
The Rebel. Okay.
The Rebel. Yeah.
53 years old. Kate McKinnon is 38. If you guys watch the Food Network, Reed Drummond, she's really creepy in my opinion. I don't like watching her. She's 53. And guys, we also have Eric Trump, who's 38. And then last but not least, I have a double feature here for you guys. Kenna James is 28, she's best known for breaking in the New Girl, Duct Tape Challenge, My Bros. I had to say this like 5 times. My Bros Ho got nice toes. Sex Junkies, stop fucking my friends. But then we also have the Dustin Diamond, guys. You guys know that he was in a porn?
Wait.
No, I don't watch a lot of these. So.
Yeah, who's Dustin Diamond?
Screech was Dustin Diamond, the late Dustin Diamond.
What?
I could see that being a thing. Like,
He was in a porn.
I'm sure your girls are into that nerdy stuff.
He was in a porn titled none other than Screeched.
What's
Great.
the
Now I
over
actually
under on
have
this
to go
getting
check that out.
demonetized? We got a claw machine on Epstein Island, stop fucking my friends, and breaking in the New Girl. Like everything about that sounds illegal. Like,
Yeah, this show was fucked from the beginning. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys on Monday. Until then, keep calm and huddle on. Have a great weekend.
have a good one.